If you haven't watched The Boys yet, I am honestly jealous because you have 3 full seasons of pretty fun TV to catch up on. Now, many of you watch this show as purely popcorn TV. You watch it at its face value. It's funny. It's got good action scenes, superheroes doing cool stuff. That's great. But I know some of you have seen the deeper symbolism in the show, which honestly reminds me of the Halo video games, where it's like, I see what they're doing there with this character representing this. It's very cool. You can tell the writers are trying to subvert expectations and are planting seeds for, in my opinion, the big revelation, which I think is going to culminate similarly to the Book of Eli, that movie, where you watch it and at the very end you're like, no way. That's what I think is happening here, especially with the writers intentionally wanting you to dislike certain characters, where if you look at a deeper level and look at them more intelligently, you will see that they're not actually all that bad. Our first example, admittedly, is a bit low-hanging fruit, and that is Blue Hawk. Blue Hawk is an example of a unappreciated public servant. He is representative of the inner city public school teacher who gets a lot of shit but has a hard job and doesn't get credit for the good job he does. It's not his fault that the graduation rate is only 40%. And all he does is get blamed for the fact that 60% of people don't graduate. But what about the 40% that do? This is a hard job. And Blue Hawk is not perfect. He makes mistakes. But obviously, he cares. Blue Hawk even goes so far as to donate $10,000 of his own money to the community. This is, again, a throwback to the teachers, where they use their own money to pay for school supplies. And still, the community does not respect and appreciate what Blue Hawk does. It reminds me of the children's book, The Giving Tree, where Blue Hawk just gives and he gives and he gives until he can't give anymore. And ultimately, he ends up being murdered by a black man. But here's where the writers get creative, and it comes full circle. Again, Book of Eli, as I referenced. In Blue Hawk's death, he actually saves a black man because he's an organ donor. And, I mean, dude, the writers just, c'est la vie. Next up, we have Stormfront. And Stormfront is a representation of great people throughout history that have had problematic pasts. Stormfront is akin to Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, clearly a great man, one of our founding fathers, wrote the Declaration of Independence, but also owned slaves. He is a product of his time, much like Stormfront. Despite all her flaws, we can tell that Stormfront, deep down, is a good person by the way that she raises Homelander's son, who is not hers, but she still goes out of her way to care for this child, which is admirable. And this is why she has inspired such a fan base. People can see this and recognize this. And this is where it gets crazy, because Stormfront is actually symbolic to the Prophet Muhammad. Both Stormfront and the Prophet Muhammad had problematic pasts, things that we view negatively nowadays. Stormfront was a Nazi. The Prophet Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old. These are things in today's modern world that we go, ew. But we honestly can't sit here on our moral high horse and say that the means don't justify the ends. Because even if you disagree with the Prophet Muhammad, you honestly can't sit here and say that the world would be a better place without Islam. It's the religion of peace. Think about all of the crazy inventions and things we enjoy today because of Islam. We probably wouldn't even be having this conversation right now without the inventions coming out of Islam. Next up, we have the big man himself, Homelander. Now, I'm not going to tell you this one right away, but you're going to figure it out on your own. Homelander, his birth is very mysterious. He performs miracles that no one can explain. He craves approval from his father. He is betrayed by someone he trusted most. And ultimately, he will save us all. That's right. Homelander is Jesus Christ. Is your mind blown yet? I could not believe it when I saw it. There are other allegories and symbolism in The Boys, but these are the 3 characters that stood out to me most. Unfortunately, it's going to be a while before we get season 4, but I figured I'd drop this video, and maybe you have some fun rewatching it now that you know these things, and you can kind of look for them, similar to the Book of Eli, where if you know the ending, it's kind of fun to watch it again. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.